My best friend became my business partner. Then she became my husband's wife too. Hi everyone! Before we get into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel's reach has been dropping a bit, and one of the best ways you can support us is by subscribing. It's quick, free, and helps us keep bringing you new and interesting stories. Your support means the world to us, and together, we can grow this channel. Thank you so much. Now let's get to today's story. I'm writing from a temporary account for obvious reasons, and I've changed some details to protect my anonymity. I built ThriveWell from nothing, literally nothing. Just me, a laptop, and a kitchen table in the apartment I could barely afford. It started as a wellness app, a platform connecting users with nutritionists, trainers, and mental health professionals. I worked 18-hour days, taught myself to code, learned business development through YouTube videos and library books. I pitched to investors who patronized me and clients who doubted me. I failed more times than I succeeded, but I kept going. 3 years in, ThriveWell had 50,000 active users and was generating real revenue. That's when I brought in my best friend Rachel as COO. Rachel and I had been friends since college. We'd lived together senior year, survived breakups and job searches together, been in each other's weddings. She was the sister I never had. Smart, charismatic, with an MBA and corporate experience I didn't have. She believed in ThriveWell from the beginning, and when I finally had the resources to hire a real executive, she was the obvious choice. We're going to build an empire, she said the day she signed on, champagne in hand in my tiny office. We already are, I replied. My husband Daniel had been supportive from day one. He worked in finance, had a stable job with good benefits, which meant I could take risks with the business. He never complained when I worked late or obsessed over user metrics at dinner. He was my rock, my safe harbor in the chaos of entrepreneurship. I'm so proud of you, he'd say, kissing my forehead when I came to bed at 2 a.m. after a product launch. The three of us became a unit. Daniel would join Rachel and me for celebratory dinners after big wins. Rachel would come over for Sunday brunch and stay for game nights. We'd vacation together, a week in Mexico after we hit 100,000 users, a weekend in Napa when we secured Series A funding. It felt like family. Like we were building something bigger than a business. We were building a life. Looking back, I can pinpoint exactly when things started to shift. About 18 months ago. Small changes at first, easy to dismiss. Rachel started dressing differently, more expensive clothes, designer bags. Treating myself, she'd say with a shrug. We're doing well, why not? Daniel started going to the gym more, lost weight, bought new suits. Just want to take better care of myself, he explained. They both seemed happier, more energized. I thought it was because the business was thriving. We'd just closed our Series B round $12 million. We were expanding to 3 new cities. Revenue was up 40% year over year. I thought we were all riding the same high. Then I started noticing the conversations that stopped when I entered a room. The shared glances I couldn't quite interpret. The way Rachel's hand would linger on Daniel's arm when she laughed at his jokes. I told myself I was being paranoid. Rachel was my best friend. Daniel was my husband. They were just comfortable with each other because we all spent so much time together. But the whispers continued. Late-night texts that Daniel would quickly close when I walked by. Work stuff, he'd say. Private meetings Rachel would have with potential investors that she'd be vague about afterward. I was too busy to investigate. We were in the middle of a major product rollout, dealing with scaling issues, negotiating partnerships. I was working 16-hour days, sleeping at the office half the time. I trusted them to handle what I couldn't. That trust would destroy me. The financial problems started subtly. Cash flow issues that Rachel assured me were temporary. Normal growing pains, she said. We're investing heavily in expansion. It'll balance out. Then the problems got worse. Vendor payments were late. Payroll almost didn't clear 1 month. I started digging into the books and found irregularities I couldn't explain, transfers to accounts I didn't recognize, expenses that seemed inflated. Rachel, what's this? I asked. pointing at a particularly large transfer on my screen. She barely glanced at it. "Oh, that's the consulting firm we hired for the West Coast expansion. Remember? We discussed it." I didn't remember discussing it, but I'd been so overwhelmed. Maybe I'd forgotten. Maybe I'd approved it in an email I didn't recall sending. And this? Another transfer, $50,000. Legal fees, the new partnership agreements. Everything had an explanation, but none of them felt quite right. I brought Daniel into my office at home one night, showed him the spreadsheets. "Something's not adding up," I said. "We should have more cash on hand. The revenue doesn't match the account balances." He studied the numbers with his finance expertise. Frowned. "Have you talked to Rachel about this?" "She says everything's fine, that I'm just stressed and reading too much into normal business expenses." "Maybe she's right. You have been under a lot of pressure. But what if she's not?" He put his hands on my shoulders. "Babe, Rachel is your best friend. She's not going to screw you over. You're tired. You're seeing problems that aren't there." I wanted to believe him, so I did. 2 weeks later, I found the email. It was an accident. I was using Daniel's laptop because mine was updating, checking my own email through the browser. His Gmail was still logged in. I was about to log out when I saw the sender name in his inbox. Rachel Mitchell. I should have logged out. Should have respected his privacy. I clicked it instead. "Can't wait to see you tonight. Tell her you're working late again." My blood went cold. I scrolled down. Found months of emails between them. Hundreds of messages. "I love you. She suspects something. We need to be more careful. Once this is done, we can finally be together." The transfer went through. She didn't even notice. I read every single one. Sat there at Daniel's desk for 2 hours, clicking through their correspondence. The love affair that had been happening under my nose. The financial manipulation they'd been orchestrating together. The plan they'd developed to take control of my company. They'd been siphoning money from Thrivewell for over a year. Transfers disguised as business expenses. Payments to shell companies they controlled. They'd set up a separate entity and were funneling my company's profits into it. And they were sleeping together. Had been for 18 months. Sleeping together in hotels I was paying for through fake business travel expenses. I didn't cry. Not then. I sat there in shock, my brain trying to process the magnitude of the betrayal. My best friend, my husband. Together, they were destroying me. I printed everything. Every email, every bank statement, every suspicious transaction. I saved it all to a flash drive. Then I closed the laptop and went downstairs like nothing had happened. Daniel was on the couch, watching television. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Fine," I said. "Just checking some work emails." He kissed me when I sat down next to him. I let him, tasting the lie on his lips. I didn't confront them, not yet. I needed to understand the full scope of what they'd done. Needed to protect myself before they knew I knew. I hired a forensic accountant, paid him in cash from my personal savings, met him in a coffee shop far from our office, gave him copies of everything I'd found. "How bad is it?" I asked a week later when he called me back. "Bad. They've diverted almost $2 million over the past 14 months. They've also been negotiating a sale of the company without your knowledge." "A sale? To whom?" "A private equity firm called Summit Ventures. The deal's nearly closed. Based on these documents, they're planning to complete the sale and push you out entirely. You'll lose everything." $2 million. My company. My life's work. Can I stop it? Maybe, but you need to act fast. And you need a lawyer, a good one. I hired Patricia Moreno again, the same attorney who'd handled my divorce from Marcus in what felt like another lifetime. She was expensive and ruthless and exactly what I needed. "This is fraud," she said after reviewing the evidence. "Clear-cut embezzlement. We can file criminal charges if you want." "What are my other options?" "Civil suit. Sue for damages. Get an injunction to stop the sale. Force them out of the company. It'll be messy and public, but you'll probably win." "How long?" "Months. Maybe a year." I didn't have months. According to my forensic accountant, the sale was scheduled to close in 3 weeks. What if I beat them at their own game? I asked. Patricia raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? They think they're going to sell my company out from under me. What if I sell it first? We spent 72 hours straight working on a plan. Patricia, the forensic accountant, and 2 other lawyers Patricia brought in. We drank coffee by the pot and took turns napping on the conference room couch. The strategy was aggressive. Use the evidence of fraud to invalidate Rachel's authority as COO. Get an emergency order from a judge to freeze the company accounts. Then negotiate a real sale one where I maintained control of the process and actually benefited from the transaction. It was risky. If we failed, I'd have nothing. But if we succeeded, I'd take back everything they'd tried to steal. 3 days before the fraudulent sale was supposed to close, I called a board meeting. Thrivewell had a small board, just me as CEO and founder, Rachel as COO, and 3 outside investors. I'd always had majority control, but Rachel had been working to undermine that, I discovered. She'd been convincing the board members that I was unstable, that my leadership was hurting the company. I arrived at the conference room with Patricia and a stack of documents. Rachel was already there, looking polished and confident in a designer suit I now knew she'd bought with stolen money. She smiled when she saw me. Jenny, good morning. Are you feeling better? You've seemed so stressed lately. Daniel wasn't at this meeting. He'd never been officially part of the company. But I knew Rachel had texted him that morning. I'd seen her phone light up with his name while she was getting coffee. The 3 board members arrived. We sat down. Rachel started to speak, probably to guide the agenda her way. I cut her off. Before we begin, I need to address something serious. Rachel, you've been embezzling from this company for over a year. The room went silent. Rachel's smile froze. That's absurd, she said. Jenny, I think you need to... I have evidence. Bank statements, emails, wire transfers. You've stolen almost $2 million. You've also been negotiating a sale of Thrivewell without board approval and without my knowledge. I slid copies of the documents across the table. The board members started reading, expressions shifting from confusion to shock. This is taken out of context, Rachel said, her voice rising. Those were legitimate business expenses. The emails to my husband Daniel discussing how to hide the transfers? Those are out of context too? Her face went white. You've been sleeping with my husband and stealing from my company. Together, you've been planning to sell Thrivewell and cut me out entirely. That's fraud, Rachel. That's embezzlement. That's a crime. One of the board members, Linda Chen, looked up from the documents. Is this true? Rachel started to speak. Patricia interrupted. My client has extensive documentation of financial irregularities spanning 14 months. We've also obtained evidence of unauthorized negotiations with Summit Ventures. Ms. Mitchell has been operating outside her authority as COO and has used her position to commit fraud. I want her removed immediately, I said, and I want criminal charges filed. The meeting devolved into chaos. Rachel screaming that I was lying, that I was having a breakdown, that the board needed to remove me instead. The board members arguing among themselves. Patricia calmly presenting more evidence while Rachel fell apart. By the end, the board voted unanimously to suspend Rachel pending investigation. Security escorted her from the building while she cried and protested. I watched her go and felt nothing. That evening, Daniel came home like it was any other day. How was work? He asked, kissing my cheek. Interesting. I fired Rachel today. He froze. What? Why? For embezzlement. And for sleeping with you. The color drained from his face. I know everything, Daniel. I've known for weeks. The emails, the money, the plan to sell the company. All of it. He tried to deny it. Then tried to explain. Then tried to apologize. I let him talk. When he was done, I said, I want you out. Tonight. Take whatever you can carry. The rest I'm donating. Jenny, please, we can work through this. No, We can't. You betrayed me with my best friend while stealing my company. There's no coming back from that. I love you. You love my money. You love what I built. You don't love me. If you did, you wouldn't have done any of this. He left, packed a suitcase, and walked out of the house we'd bought together. I changed the locks before he reached the end of the driveway. The next 72 hours were a blur. Patricia got a court order freezing all company accounts and blocking the Summit Ventures sale. The forensic accountant compiled a comprehensive report of the fraud. The board called an emergency meeting and unanimously appointed me sole decision-maker while the investigation proceeded. Rachel hired her own lawyer, tried to claim she'd been acting on my behalf, that I'd approved everything, that she was being scapegoated. But the emails destroyed her defense. Her own words, discussing with Daniel how to hide the transfers, how to manipulate me, how to take everything I'd built. Daniel tried calling, texting, showing up at the office. I had security remove him. He sent flowers with a note. I made a terrible mistake. Please forgive me. I sent them back with a note of my own. Talk to my lawyer. The divorce was filed within a week. Patricia handled that too, pulling double duty as both business attorney and divorce counsel. Given Daniel's involvement in the embezzlement, she was confident I'd get a favorable settlement. He's going to lose everything, she said. His involvement in the fraud makes him liable too. We can go after his assets. Do it. The media got hold of the story. Tech blogs, business publications, even mainstream news. Founder discovers best friend and husband's plot to steal her company. The coverage was intense and mostly sympathetic to me. Rachel and Daniel both went dark on social media. Their reputations were destroyed overnight. 3 weeks after I'd discovered the truth, I got a call from Rachel. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won out. What do you want? Jenny, please, we need to talk. No, we don't. I'm pregnant. The words hung in the air. I felt sick. Congratulations. Have a nice life. It's Daniel's? I assumed. That doesn't change anything. Please don't press charges. I'll lose everything. I'll go to prison. I can't. You should have thought about that before you stole from me. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I never meant... Yes, you did. You meant every bit of it. You planned it. You executed it. You got caught. Sorry doesn't fix that. Please. I hung up. The criminal investigation moved forward. The district attorney was interested. White-collar crime involving a successful tech startup made for good press. Rachel's lawyer tried to negotiate, but Patricia was relentless. Daniel, surprisingly, flipped. Agreed to testify against Rachel in exchange for reduced charges. He gave prosecutors everything: documents, recordings, details of their planning. The man I'd married was willing to throw his pregnant girlfriend under the bus to save himself. I felt nothing but contempt. While the legal proceedings ground forward, I had to save my company. Thrivewell was hemorrhaging users and staff. The scandal had damaged our reputation. Partners were backing out. Investors were nervous. I spent 3 months in crisis mode, hired a new COO, someone with impeccable references and no personal connection to me. Brought in a PR firm to manage the narrative. Gave interviews where I was honest about the betrayal and transparent about how we were fixing it. I built Thrivewell to help people, I told TechCrunch. That mission doesn't change because 2 people tried to destroy it. If anything, it makes me more determined. The response was overwhelming. Users reached out with messages of support. New investors appeared, wanting to back a founder who'd fought for her company. Partnerships that had paused started moving forward again. 6 months after discovering the fraud, Thrivewell was stable again. Not thriving yet, but stable. Growing slowly, rebuilding trust. Rachel pleaded guilty to embezzlement and fraud. The prosecution recommended 3 years in prison. She gave birth to a daughter 2 months before sentencing, named her Emma. I felt a flicker of something when I heard that. Not quite pity, but close. Daniel got probation and community service for cooperating. He also got a massive financial judgment against him in the divorce. had to liquidate his retirement accounts and sell the car I'd bought him for his birthday. He tried to see me one more time before the divorce finalized. Showed up at my office, somehow got past security. "I just want you to know I really did love you," he said. "No? You loved what I could give you. There's a difference. I was weak. I made mistakes. You made choices. Own them." He left. I never saw him again. The sale of Thrivewell happened a year after the initial betrayal, but this time, it was on my terms. I negotiated with 3 different buyers, chose the one that offered the best deal and would protect my team. Sold for $30 million, retained a significant equity stake, and stayed on as an advisor. I walked away with enough money to never work again if I didn't want to. But that was never the point. The point was building something, creating value, proving I could do it. The point was not letting them destroy me. I used some of the money to start a new venture, a platform for women entrepreneurs, connecting them with mentors, investors, and resources. Something built on the lessons I'd learned the hard way. I called it Phoenix Rising, because that's what I was doing, rising from the ashes of betrayal. Rachel got out of prison after serving 18 months. I heard she moved to a different state, trying to rebuild her life away from the scandal. I hope she's a good mother to Emma. I hope she learned something from what she did. I don't hate her anymore. Hate takes energy I'd rather spend on building. Daniel remarried someone he met through a dating app. They live in a small apartment in a neighborhood he used to mock as too downscale. His career never recovered from the scandal. Last I heard, he was working as a junior analyst at a firm that didn't know his history. I'm building something new now, not just the business, but a life. One built on self-reliance instead of trust in the wrong people. I date occasionally, nothing serious. I'm not ready for serious. Maybe I never will be again. That's okay. I'm enough on my own. My story made the rounds in entrepreneurship circles. I get invited to speak at conferences now, to share what I learned. I talk about resilience, about due diligence, about the importance of protecting yourself in partnerships. I talk about trust and how it's earned, not given. The question I get asked most is whether I regret trusting Rachel and Daniel, whether I wish I'd been more suspicious, more careful, more guarded. I don't regret trusting them. I regret that they weren't worthy of that trust. There's a difference. I built something beautiful with Thrivewell. I took an idea and turned it into a company that helped hundreds of thousands of people. That's real. That matters. The fact that 2 people tried to steal it doesn't diminish what I created. If anything, the fact that I fought back and won makes it mean more. My best friend became my business partner. Then she became my husband's wife. They sold our company on the day of my bankruptcy, or at least, they tried to. But I wasn't bankrupt. Not financially, not morally, not spiritually. I was angry. I was betrayed. I was hurt in ways I'm still processing. But I wasn't broken. They took $2 million and thought they were taking everything. What they didn't realize is that the money was never the most valuable thing I had. My resilience was. My creativity was. My ability to get up after being knocked down was. They couldn't steal that. Nobody can. 3 years after everything fell apart, I'm sitting in my new office overlooking the water. Phoenix Rising just closed its Series A funding round. We have 40 companies in our portfolio. We've helped secure over $100 million in funding for women-led startups. I built this. Me. Without Daniel. Without Rachel. Without anyone who saw me as something to exploit. I built this because I refused to stay down. My phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number. "I saw your TechCrunch interview. I'm proud of what you've built. I'm sorry for everything. R. Rachel. Still trying to make amends, or maybe just trying to make herself feel better." I delete it without responding. Some betrayals don't earn forgiveness. Some doors, once closed, stay locked. I turn back to my computer. I have a pitch meeting in an hour with a founder who reminds me of myself 5 years ago, hungry, brilliant, and maybe too trusting. I'll help her build her dream, and I'll teach her how to protect it. Because that's what I do now. I rise, I build. I help others do the same. And I never, ever let anyone take what's mine again.